Thank you for being here. My name is Ayla, and it has been and continues to be an honor to share the practice of Yoga Nidra with you. I am today creating this for you all so that we can celebrate the 1 year of Yoga Nidra and beyond, and also so that you can get to know a little bit about the voice behind the recording and the person behind the recording. I just wanted to kind of touch on my experience with this practice and also what exactly got me to where I am today with Yoga Nidra. It all kind of began after I had a really wild experience in my early 20s, and I had been going to group therapy, and one of the individuals was actually talking about how yoga had really helped them with their mental state. On my way to these group therapy sessions, I was always walking past a yoga studio. One day I decided on my way to this session to pop in there and get some information. So I got the information I needed, and after that I started going to practices, and it just happened to be a 1-month challenge. So I thought, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but surely in a month I can figure it out. So I started going to these yoga practices, and one of the traumatic experience I had had was I had fallen from a very high height into a river, and I could always hear this rushing stream of water going through my ears every single time I would close my eyes. I started doing restorative yoga, and I found that the more that I practiced restorative yoga, the quieter the sound of the river became. Eventually, I was able to close my eyes and sleep without hearing that rushing water. After this, I decided that I wanted to continue the practice. And over the years, I kept on having more profound experiences, and so I decided that I wanted to study yoga. I got on a plane, went to India, and studied under a Tantra yoga school. Before I got there, I had heard some things about Tantra yoga. My intention was not to go there for Kama Sutra or to understand something on a darker level. It was more so to educate myself around the philosophy. It was really incredible to be in India, to be studying yoga, and to be studying Tantra specifically because they didn't just work on yoga asana, they also had these deep meditations. So for about 2 to 3 hours, you would be practicing yoga. And it would finish with a shavasana, where you would do a body scan. And this body scan, you would want to breathe naturally. You wouldn't want to manipulate your breath in any way. You would really begin to experience yourself. You would have experiences like astral travel. There was lucid dreaming. Sometimes you would feel as though you had fallen asleep. And when you came out of the practice, there was just a deep sense of calm, of wellness, of well-being. I hadn't ever experienced a practice of yoga like that before. So I go back to Canada, and over the years, I take other trainings to learn about different lineages of yoga. And in this one particular training, they had a teacher come in to share the practice of Nidra. Now, it was interesting because you lay in Shavasana, corpse pose, and you begin to do a body scan. You're implementing something called a sankalpa or a heartfelt intention, and then having the breath work, the emotional work, and the visualizations along with a state of bliss at the end, where you are really able to calm the nervous system and truly rest and restore. I could feel the similarities between the Tantra practice and the Yoga Nidra practice, and then later found out that Nidra is from the Tantra lineage. This is one of those stories where everything becomes full circle. I used to be a flight attendant, so I was flying all over the place and going to places where there were different types of bugs and things you needed shots for, and I started to notice that I would get sick and it was really difficult to recover. And eventually, I had gone repeatedly back and forth between flying and to the doctor. Eventually, I found out that the fatigue, the night sweats, these experiences that I was having were going to require a blood test. At the same time, was also enrolled to go to yoga therapy because I wanted to offer the healing work that I had experienced through yoga, but wanted to know it on a deeper level, where you really learn the anatomy, where you really learn the physiology and also the neuroscience behind the practice. And it was my first day of university, or I was going to a university for this certification. And I get a phone call from the doctor's office, and they want me to come down to get my results. And I get there, and they expressed to me that I'd been diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia. I felt confused by this. I didn't really know at the time, like I knew what leukemia was, but I couldn't quite understand why I would have had it. And it was funny thinking that going to these tropical places that maybe I had just gotten a bug or something else had happened. So it was a really, interesting diagnosis to have. I ended up having to drop out of my yoga therapy because I started to undergo chemotherapy treatments as well as radiation, and eventually I got a transplant. During that time, I went from snowboarding, cycling, doing yoga, asana every day, being able to walk for miles and kilometers, and really being quite physically active and eating a healthy lifestyle as vegetarian, doing meal prep, and really honing in on my well-being. And so it confused me as to how I had gotten cancer, and a rare form of it at that. I ended up in the hospital, and I was getting these treatments, and I started to lose my mobility. I wasn't able to walk as much, my energy levels started to deplete, and I also was very immunocompromised, so I couldn't spend time with people unless they were in good health. So I ended up getting to a point where I got an infection that put me into the ICU. And after coming out of the ICU, which was also a miracle, my doctors also had expressed to me that the type of cancer I had has been known to go to the brain. And when you get information like that, it's kind of scary because you're already feeling pretty terrible, and then you lose all of your physical health, and the only thing you have left is the mind. And I wanted to keep it as healthy as possible. Coming out of the ICU, I had to get therapy in order to be able to walk again because I had atrophied and had so much lactic acid in my body that it made it very difficult to walk. I came back to the practice of Yoga Nidra, and I was lying in my hospital bed, and I'd close my eyes and listen to a recording, and that was what really helped me through that period of my life. After I had gotten my stem cell transplant, I was able to go home and begin to heal for the next 3 months until we found out the results. I saw that Tanis Fishman, who is also a Yoga Nidra teacher that offers on YouTube, she is from the same city I was living in. So I ended up being so fortunate as to take one of her teacher trainings. I was able to go through those 3 months of my transplant, really moving deeply into the practice. I had very profound experiences through that. I would laugh sometimes in a class, or I would have these experiences that felt out of body. I would feel as though I could truly connect with my inner child. I was able to really envision a happy and healthy future for myself. And I found out in May from my doctors that the transplant was not successful, and that the only options that I had were to go to the States, and I would have to take out a absurd amount of money in order to have any more treatments that were going to be experimental. That's all very scary. And then they gave me an expiry date. I had between 6 months to a year. It wasn't really certain how much time I really had left. I get home from that appointment, and my doctor lets me know that it doesn't sit well with them. It doesn't sit well with me. And we decided that we would do test results again in another month. But with all the information that I'd been given, I decided that I wanted to conquer all of my fears. I started to join a climbing gym so that I could conquer my fear of heights, which, by the way, is not really something you conquer. You just get better at doing things scared, really. I ended up wanting to really see the ocean, so I go to the ocean. I remember looking around when I went to these Yoga Nidra teacher training classes, looking around the room and seeing people of all ages, all demographics, and thinking, wow, I'm really on my deathbed here. Like, I feel as though my life is so short. And look at all these lucky people who are able to be here and aren't going through this experience that I was. That becomes a little bit of like a victim mindset. And I was able to recognize this. But in the practice of that weekend, I had this incredible experience where I realized, because I had been told I only had so much time to live and the chances of surviving were very low with this opportunity to try an experimental drug, I realized that I was so focused on my death that I wasn't really living. And so I was walking and I sat down on a park bench, and that's when it came to me that if I continue to worry about my death, I'm not really alive. And from that moment on, I chose life. And my practice and my sankalpa was completely around trusting that I was going to be okay no matter what. And a month later, afterwards, the results came back and I was cancer-free. I was in remission. And that was on June 10th of 2018. So fast forward to now, it's been 5 years on the 10th that I've been in remission. And it's been a really reflective time because now I can see the person that I have become in the last 5 years, and also the experiences that I just really wish I could and hope to share with all of you, because I didn't have my hair, I didn't have my lashes, my eyebrows. I was a shell of myself. I couldn't even recognize myself in the mirror sometimes. And because of this practice, there was an ability to be calm, to be present, to be connected to my body, something that I felt that I needed to befriend. And that's truly something that has been a very important experience, is befriending cancer. And not fighting it, but saying, hi, I see you. I understand that you want to share this message and this experience with me. And I love you. And I want you to know that it's okay that you're here. And it's also okay if you go away. And when you become your ally within your mind, within your body, it is extremely healing. And I don't say this as a psychologist, I don't say this as a doctor, I say this as a person that had a really hard time with loving themselves. And cancer gives you this opportunity, any illness gives you an opportunity to truly love and radically accept yourself. And doing it just for you. So yeah, I put a lot of love and I put a lot of intention into these practices because it really is important to me that the people that I share this with know that you aren't alone, and that no matter what, everything is temporary. Your happiness, your joy, your sadness, your anger, any sense of betrayal, any sense of success, of loss, of grief, all of these experiences, they do shape who we are, but they are not constant. They are forever changing. And we all have the ability to shift and change ourselves. And it's not so that we can necessarily become a better person, but that we can become a loving person, a kind person to ourselves. Because our experience of ourselves is a reflection into the world. And the world is a reflection of our inner experience. So when I was able to release and really accept where I was at, with a little touch of denial, just sprinkle that on there, I feel like that was a really beautiful healing part of practicing Yoga Nidra. And thank you so much. I hope that you continue to practice with me, and I really look forward to creating more opportunities for you to experience yourself in a beautiful and profound way. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to leave a comment or like to share this video or subscribe, please do so. And yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this practice and of this life. Namaskar.